Welcome to my broadcast script writing tutorial. Broadcast scripts are a really great way to lay out all of the video and audio content for a piece that you're producing, and it's how journalists communicate the video and audio cues to the rest of their production team. Now usually, as you can see, broadcast scripts are split typically into two columns, with the video cues on one side and the audio cues on the other. So you'll see the instructions for everything that you would see on one side and all the things that you would hear on the other side. Now it may look a little bit like a foreign language, but that's only because broadcast journalists, like many professionals in many fields, like to make up really complicated new terms for things that had perfectly good terms to begin with. Kind of like philosophers in that way. But really, it's not so bad once you get familiarized with it. All you need to know is a few main abbreviations, and the rest is pretty intuitive. Now I should say, organizations tend to follow their own conventions to a certain degree, but this is a compilation of some of the most common abbreviations that you'll see across a lot of different organizations' standard practices. So the first thing you'll see on a script is usually the slug. And the slug is a squishy, insect-like creature. No, wrong slug. The slug is just the information about the piece. Its title, the reporter's name, the date, sometimes the runtime, and this is usually up at the top of the piece. The next group of abbreviations we're going to be dealing with all have to do with the reporter or the anchor and the person who's speaking and how they're speaking it. So for example, you might see the reporter speaking on camera, on cam, just like me right now. But if I happen to be reporting about, say, the fallen trees after a recent storm, and I am standing up in the place that I'm talking about, that would be considered a stand-up. Makes sense. Now I might also be reporting live on the scene in real time, in which case, unsurprisingly, it would be notated as live on scene, or live on set, LOS. Now sometimes you might want to get the perspective of the people on the street, and so you might ask a random passerby a question or two. You can really get your finger on the pulse. You can get the voice of the people. What's the word I'm looking for?
Populi!
Thank you, random superhero passing by. I guess Vox Populi. I'll mark that line down as MOS for man on street, I suppose. Of course, you may want to save yourself the embarrassment of having to actually be there and talk to real people and get upstaged by 5-year-olds and, you know, the usual reporter stuff. So you might just want to keep talking yourself, but show some video behind you that actually enhances what you're talking about. So for example, you might want to voice over some what's called B-roll. B-roll is basically just your secondary background footage, your general footage that is really good for transitions, for establishing context and continuity, and oftentimes you'll voice over this. By the way, there's really no such thing as A-roll, but if you need to notate a specific piece of primary video footage where the main action is happening, you could use the term ENG, or electronic news gathering. That's one of those fancy journalist terms that basically just means video. But more generally, you would use the term VO, which is what I'm doing right now, voicing over. And this is where you're showing B-roll, but the audio that you hear is not from that footage. Instead, it's from the anchor or the reporter voicing over it, narrating over it. Or instead of a voiceover, VO, it might be SOT, for sound on tape. And this is when you not only see video footage, but instead of hearing the reporter or anchor voicing over it, you actually hear the sound from that footage.
Like this interview with me! And I'm a superhero.
You might even just hear the ambient background noise from that scene, especially in background footage, and that would be called natural sound, or NATS for short. Like these cars passing. Now a few other notations you might see. For example, the word take. Wait, come back here. That's better. Now, where was I? If you see the word take... Hey, stop that. Let's try this again. If you see that word, it essentially just means start. So if I were to say, take VO, you would know to cue the start of the voiceover. It's sort of optional because usually to start it is implied, but it might help add some clarity, especially if you pair it with an underlined part of the spoken words so that they know to start the voiceover, to take the voiceover at the underlined word. But in the event that I've been droning on and on for a long time, and you feel you need to clarify when to start or stop a clip, you could help out the production team by cueing them with an in cue, being the first few words excerpted from the clip in question, or the out cue, the last few words before you're ready to cut back to the reporter or anchor. Now you might want to vary your shot selection a little bit and start with, say, a long shot, or LS, in order to establish context. Start off with a wider view of the scene. And then you might zoom in for a mid-range shot, a medium shot, or MS. Of course, you could also get in really close for a close-up shot, or CU. Or if you really, really, really want some details, you could get in for an extra close-up shot, ECU. Okay, that's too close, too close. Come on, you saw that one coming. I know, sorry. By the way, all this stuff that's cluttering up the screen here, that all has a name too. Anytime there's text or graphics that are going to be superimposed on the screen, they get labeled as super, for superimposed. Sometimes you might see the term CG. CG is for character generator. It's sort of an antiquated term from older technology that is still held on and is used sometimes, but more frequently you'll see super. And that will denote that the text that is written next to super is not spoken, but is superimposed on the screen somewhere. Now, sometimes these superimpositions might be user-generated content, or UGC, just like this fan tweet. And every now and then you might want to use an E, or effect. Again, that's kind of one of those terms that didn't need to be reinvented because there's already perfectly good terms like FX for effects, but journalists wanted to claim this one for their own lexicon, I suppose. So E is effect. And when all is said and done and you're ready to bring your script to a close, you can notate that the script is ending with 3 pound signs. That's hashtags for you millennials, at the bottom of your copy. Whoa, fake ending. Gotcha. In order to avoid something like that happening, if you have multiple distinct segments to your broadcast, for example, different locations or different stories entirely, all being part of the same package, you could denote those with 3 numbers rather than 3 pound signs. So instead of saying pound, pound, pound at the end of your broadcast script, you could end the first segment of your script with 1, 1, 1. The next segment might be 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, so on. And then when you're finally done, it would be pound, pound, pound at the end. But as for this broadcast, we are indeed done. And so I hope that this, along with the examples provided and this cheat sheet that you'll have, that this has all made broadcast script writing a little more transparent and a little bit easier for you. And hopefully it becomes a useful tool as you do some video editing of your own. For the College of St. Elizabeth, I'm Eric Velosin. Have a good night. Or day. Or morning. Whenever you decide to watch this, just enjoy it.